Hi everyone, Sue from Art Craft and Journals. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to make a baby wipe fabric flip for this journal that I'm making at the moment. And when I have finished it, I will do a flip through of the actual journal. Still deciding what to do on the cover actually. I haven't quite figured out what to do. But in the meantime, I thought I would make a flip using a baby wipe. So I've got some little bits and pieces. I've sort of gone through and worked out what I'm going to do, and hopefully I haven't lost some of the bits and pieces because there are some small bits. So what I thought I would do is, this is what the baby wipe looks like. Now it's quite stiff, this one, because it's obviously had acrylic paint on it, so it's quite stiff. The colour inside the journal is primarily green with pinks, so I thought I would continue that with the flip. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use just some cotton, if I can find some cotton, just to sew down the bits and pieces, and then we'll do some slow stitching sort of designs on top. So basically what I'm going to do, and I'll just zoom in a little bit, there we go. What I'm going to do is, I've got some bits and pieces of green fabric and lots of threads, and I thought I would just sort of spread them around. I don't want to cover all the colour from the baby wipe though, because well, the whole point of using it was because it had some colour on it. So I'm thinking maybe something like that. I have a bit of pink too. Maybe something. Yep. So I'm going to put that as a base, and then I do have some of these little, I think they're paper flowers. So I've got a couple of those. I've also got some very roughly cut out little flower shaped things, which I'm going to use as well. And there is some bits and pieces of another baby wipe, which is green, and they're going to be leaves, all being well. And I've also got some embroidery threads I thought I would use as well. So firstly I'm going to pin those down into place, and then I will tack them down with some white, just some white cotton, so they don't move everywhere. And then we'll do a little bit of maybe embroidery, or at least some hand stitching over the top. Okay, so just some cotton. I'm just going to use a single thread, probably too long, because I hate having to stop and rethread my needles. I really don't like doing that. I'd rather put up with untangling it than threading needles. Alright, so just going to basically tack it down with an invisible sort of stitch. Unfortunately this needle's a little bit bigger than I usually use. I prefer to use small needles, but never mind, doesn't matter. It was the one that was there when I grabbed them, so that's the one I'm using. So just basically like a running stitch, up and down, in and out. Small at the top, larger at the bottom. So they're smaller there, and at the back they'll be a lot larger. I'm just doing this pink square or rectangle for a start, and then I'll go around and do some of the others. Now look, you could do the green one first, put the green one down, sew it, then put the pink one, sew it, but you're kind of doubling up a little bit. And if you've got them pinned down, they won't move. It's up to you though. I mean, everyone does things slightly different. I mean, my way is just my way, the way I've been doing it, I don't know, for a while, a long time. And it works for me, so that's the way I do it. I'm sure there's other ways, possibly better, maybe not so good, I don't know, but this is just my way. Now it is a little difficult sometimes to pull the needle through when you're sewing onto the acrylic paint, because obviously it is paint and it's sort of got a plasticky feel to it, but generally it's not too bad. Okay, so that's, maybe I'll get these out of the way. That's the first piece sewn down, and I'm just going to take the thread to the back and do some back stitch, which means I just kind of lightly stitch over itself, the cotton, just back and forth, so that it's secures itself. So that's what it looks like, if you can actually see it there. Probably not, but that's what it looks like at the front. And now I'm going to do exactly the same with the larger green piece in the back. And I'm not going to do this all on camera because, well, I think it would take too long. And I don't know if I have enough things to say that I can actually talk about while I'm sewing. Now you can see that there I've put the needle down. I'm actually just going to run right across the back and come up the other side. I'm not going to stitch through that pink. Just going to cheat a little bit and go across the back. You can do that as long as it's not too big a stretch and that you don't pull the thread too tight. If you pull it too tight, obviously it's going to pucker up and it won't lay flat. And look, this is not being judged by anyone, well, unless there's an audience person out there judging, but it's not like it's, you know, your high school sewing class where you were marked on your work or anything like that. You're not selling it that anyone is going to be, you know, looking at the back and whatever. And in this case, look, I may actually put something on the back of this one because it is going to be a flip, or I may not. It'll depend on what it looks like. So as I said, I will continue this off camera and return when I have finished this part of it. Alright, I'm back again. Now what I've done is I have sewn all those pieces down, and I'll just bring it up a little bit closer. Hopefully you actually won't be able to see the stitches too clearly, but you will be able to see them a little bit. And the back, that's what the back looks like. So there's actually not too much there that you can actually see. Okay, so my next step is I've got some DMC thread and I've pulled off some. Now these DMC threads, they're embroidery thread or floss. They come in 6 strands, and I'm going to only use half of them, so 3. Now apparently the correct way is to do them singly, pull them out singly. I must admit that most of the time I don't. I usually just grab 3 and pull it out that way, but we'll do it the correct way once and then pop them back together and hope they all go nice and straight. Probably a little bit too long, but as I said, I don't like threading needles. Sometimes you have to trim the end. Now when I was taught many years ago at school to do embroidery, and we were told never to knot the end, that you backstitch or whatever, but I don't know, I think I'll just give it a small knot. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do some embroidery or some stitching over the top to give it a little bit more interest, bearing in mind that I am putting some flowers on it as well. So I'm not sure, maybe I should have a look at where I'm putting the flowers. It'll end up something like that. So I guess I don't want to be too elaborate then with my stitching. What I might do is I might do some chain stitch down here. And of course chain stitch is called chain stitch because it looks like a chain. So you can see the knot itself, which is there, is not that big. Okay, so I've just come up to the front and I'm actually going back down right next to, or into the hole if you can. Right next to is probably a little bit better. So straight down like so. Maybe a different angle. And then you leave it looped like this and you actually come back up a little bit of a distance, whatever distance you like. The longer your stitch, the longer the chain. You bring that back up and you actually come through that loop and just pull it up like so. As you can see, it's made the chain or the loop. And then with again, you go back down into that same spot where the thread came up and bring it back up into there like so, and pull it again like so, and that's your chain. Now you can twist the thread too. I think there's a twisted chain, but for the basic chain you don't need to do that. There are variations on the chain stitch. There's an open chain stitch where the top part's more open, but this is just a basic chain. So I'm going to continue that down this side until the very end. And of course, if you want a finer chain, you would use less embroidery thread, so maybe 2 threads or even 1 if you want it really tiny, and a smaller needle so that you can do a smaller stitch. There, you know, as I said, there's variations. So that's what it looks like so far. You can see, if I can bring that up a little bit more, you can see that my stitch is getting smaller. So I'll try not to let that happen, but it's a bit difficult when I'm not looking straight at it. I need it a little bit to hold a little bit closer to me to see. And of course, just make sure that you don't get your thread so that you're actually catching it in there as well. So back down through the hole, through the loop, and pull it gently. Don't pull it too tight, it does wreck the chain. Okay, so back down, back up, and you can see that the loop forms itself. There are plenty of videos, I'm sure, showing you how to do this online. And once you get to the end, all I do is I just go on the outside of the loop. I take my needle back down through the fabric on the outside of the loop. So it basically catches that last loop. And then I back stitch over the top of my existing stitches. Okay, so that's what the back looks like. Oops. And the front looks like that. Now it's not perfect, but it's fine. Now, do I want to do another bit? I'm thinking I might actually do maybe another one down there. I might actually do another one down the opposite side down there. So I might just do that off camera, so that's a little bit quicker. Alright, so that's the 2 chain stitches down there. Now I've rethreaded my needle with the remaining 3 threads or strands. Put a little knot in the back. No, I haven't put a knot in yet. what I'm going to do now is just some simple running stitch, I think, across this green one here, because, oh, hang on, we'll just get rid of that, because this green one, a lot of that was showing. So I'm thinking I'm just going to go across. Oh, sorry, I'm totally off. Let me just zoom down again. There we go. All right, we'll say that again. So what I'm going to do is just do some straight stitch across there. This part will be shown, I think, but most of this will probably be covered with the flowers, so I don't want to spend too much time with that area, but I'm going to go across with this one. So it's just simple running stitch, I'm thinking. So bringing my thread up, not at the back, oh my goodness, not at the back. And then I'm going to try for even stitches across, like so. And I'm sure people who are, I guess, professional embroiderers or something may insist that you do single stitches at a time instead of going across like I just did. But, you know, really, who has the time? So just in, out, out. As long as you stretch it out, I think it's not a problem. You don't have an embroidery hoop which would do that for you, so you do have to make sure you actually do it yourself. And the baby wipes do tend to sort of come in a bit too, so, but they can stretch a little bit as well, so you've just got to watch that as well. I'm trying to keep my stitches in fairly even rows and columns. So I'll show you what I mean. So I've tried to keep them fairly even. They're not perfect, but they're reasonably even. So that's what the back looks like, so pretty much like the front. Okay, I might continue that off camera and then show you what I will do next. Right, I thought I'd just show you what happens when I've come to a point here where this bit I don't need to sew over that pink, or I don't want to. So I've come to the back, and what I'm going to do is I need to come across about halfway. So I'm actually just going to stitch into the stitches that I've already done. So just simply going underneath that stitch. And then that brings me closer to here, so I'll just pop up close to that pink, I think, there. And I'll just make a small stitch there to keep it in line with those other ones, and then I just will continue as I was before. So when you look at the back, it's not quite as messy. Alright, I'll be back. Alright, so you can see that I've done that bit, and I actually came across here and did this as well. And that's what it looks like on the back. So it's not too bad on the back. Because it is going to be a flip though, I probably will put something there. I'm not sure yet. Okay, my next thinking is I'm actually going to do this section here, and I'm going to do exactly the same, except I'm coming down. So there'll be some long runny stitches here. And I've got some pink embroidery thread, which I've knotted at the end, and I'm just going to start, I think I'll start down the bottom. So just finding where to start, about there. So just bringing the needle up, and I'm just going to do smaller little running stitches this time, because just to vary it up a little bit and try to keep them even. I think it's easier to keep them even when they're larger. So that's what that will be. And I'll just keep going till the end. Trying not to go crooked. I mean, if you're really concerned about going too crooked, you could draw some pencil lines or use one of those dressmaker's pencils or chalks to draw the lines, because they do rub out. But, you know, I'm not too fussed about that. They're reasonably straight. Okay, now when I get to the end, I'm actually going to go off the end a little bit. If I can just move that thread, just going right close to the end and off the end. See if I can do that so you can see it. So it sort of goes over the end, and then just across a little bit. And I'm actually not catching the fabric at this point. I'll catch the fabric in the first stitch. It just secures it a little bit more. And then again, I'm going to try to match the stitches that I've already done. And just watch that your thread doesn't start to tangle. If it does, what I do is I actually just let it untangle itself. Just let the needle drop so it untangles. Now I'm going a little slower this time because I'm only doing a few stitches, because I do want to try to keep it in line with those other ones. If the fraying bit annoys you, I guess you could either neaten it with a sewing machine, zigzag stitch or over stitch, or you could make your pieces slightly larger and fold them under like a little hem. But eventually it's going to stop fraying, I hope. Okay, so that's the second row done. And that's what it looks like on the back. So I'll do the other one, maybe 2 more rows off camera, and be back in shortly. Alright, so I have now finished the pink section. What I thought I would do, the flowers are going here, so I'm thinking this little bit of area here, I'm thinking I might just do some random little French knots, not too many, just a few. So I've got some white thread now. I've actually just grabbed the crochet thread, and I'm going to just do some random little French knots. Now simply bring the thread through to the front. Now I've got to remember how to do it. Let me think. Okay, so what I do is I wrap the thread around the needle. I'd usually do it, I think, twice or possibly 3 times. So you've got that, and then keeping the thread or the little loops on, go back down the hole you came from, or close to it, and you'll see that when you do that you get like a little bundle of loops there. Now I hold this piece here fairly tight with my other hand, and I pull this one through. Now because I've got quite a large eye, it's a little tricky, but you can do it, and just very gently guide it through. Try not to loop up this or catch anything else, and you'll see that once you get close you can just pull it down and you get like a little knot. So once again, I'm just going to scoot across at the back to over here. I'm bringing it through. Now my thread's probably way too long. Bring this to the side like so and wrap it round once, twice, 3 times, holding this one tight. I sort of use my finger to guide it down, back through that hole, holding this one still, bringing this down slowly so you don't knot anything else, and pull it down. And that gives you a knot. So once again, wrapping it round, 1, 2, 3, bringing it back down to that hole and pulling it tight, pulling gently down on the needle, and pulling it down. The tighter you hold, see that one's a little loose, so the tighter you hold the thread the better. And I'm just going to do a couple more. 2, 3, back down there, holding it carefully. There are variations, trying not to catch anything. There are variations on this little knot. Oh, that one was a little bit wonky. Never mind, it'll be fine. Maybe over here. And of course it's done a bit of a knotting at the back. And as you can see, at the back it's just getting sort of different, and that's obviously knotted there, but I'll sew that back down. It does knot the thread pretty quickly, I find, with this one. Probably because you're twisting and turning. Okay. Now I want to actually go back up to here, so I'm going to use the back to sort of overstitch a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to catch this one, this loop down, just in case it does decide to unravel at the wrong time. Okay, so I've made my way up the zigzag basically, and I'm going to just do another one here. And I think that might actually be enough. So 1, 2, 3, twist it round, down through the hole again. The closer you get it to the original hole, the better. But not smack on sometimes because you'll pull it through. Okay, that was probably the best one I've done. Alright, here we go. So, just back stitching to finish up. Now I think we'll start with the flowers. Alright. Okay. Now I did actually cut out 2 very tiny little green circles. I actually used my hole punch because I want those for the centres of these. And to sew them on, what I'm going to do, I'm thinking I might actually use green thread. So I have this lighter green, I might just use this one. But I'm only going to use, that's a little short. Yeah, that might do. So it's just two strands. And we'll try to thread it. Not so good. Okay. Now a little knot. Alright, now the position of them, I'm thinking, these are going to sort of be my main ones, so I'm thinking like so. And these ones, they're going to be sort of in the background, so it might actually pay to do those ones first. Actually, yeah, I might do those first. So I'll just take that off. And I'm just going to grab myself some more of this pink thread. I might just do one strand because I want to do a little bit of gathering. So just one thread through the needle, knot. Okay, now because they weren't cut specifically wonderfully, and I want to sort of gather them up a little bit, so what I'm going to do is just basically sew up through the middle. And I think I'll just do a running stitch around the sort of what would be the middle. Sorry if you can't see it. If I bring it, it's a bit hard for me to see if it's too far away from me. Okay, so basically that's what I've done. And now what I'm going to do is pull it tight. And what that does is gathers it up a little bit. So it just gives it a little bit more of a flower look. If you're not happy with it, then you can always come back and just sew a few more little bits together. Okay, so in terms of placement, I was thinking maybe that one there and that one there. So I'm thinking there. So just going to sew it through to the back in place. Once you're at the back again, just back stitch. And you're doing basically the same with those other two. It's just a very simple way of putting a fabric flower and just making it look a little bit better than just flat. Look, if you wanted, you could sew those into position. I'm not going to bother. Now these ones were really, really wonky, but the same deal. I'm just going to sort of gather them up a little bit. So just around. Oops. And there we go. If you just pull it, see what happens? You get nice little flowery look. If you like that really tight look, leave it like that. If you like it a bit more open, open it up a bit, but I'm going to leave it a bit like that, I think. Now if you want to secure it, you can just double back stitch over the back a few times and then find your position and sew it in. So I think it was going to be about there. Look, they're nothing fancy, but they sort of serve the purpose. And I have a horrible feeling I've just lost one of my, oh there we are, my little green things. Okay, so once again, I might do this one slightly different. Might just give it a little bit of a trim there where it didn't cut very well. Let me see. The other one is you can fold it in half like that too and gather it like that. Just sort of keep folding it and just sew it. That's up to you. So that's what it looks like. And just pull it. You can push it whichever way you like and secure it. Now swapping back to the green, because I'm going to do these ones now. And what happened to the green that I had? I think it might have been this one. Yes, it's got a knot in the end. Alright, now this simply is grab the flower, grab that little green bit, poke through the paper flower, and so you end up with something like that, and then just push it down and secure it into position. Now just watch that your knot doesn't come all the way through, it might do that. So just give it a couple of stitches in there to hold it in place. Could glue it as well. And then I'm just going to sew it where I want it. Okay, so it's not very in the middle, but it will be fine. Bearing in mind it is paper, not fabric, so a little bit trickier. And I'm actually just going to shoot across to here and put that over like that. Pull it through. Make sure I've got enough thread. I hope I'm speaking loud enough. I tend to get lower when I'm concentrating. So we'll pop that on like that. And we will sew this one into position. Now I do need some more green thread, so I'm just going to replace it with a longer piece. Use 2 strands. I'm going to do the leaves. Now the leaves are just randomly cut like so. They look like leaves, but they're just sort of random. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke them behind like so. So I'm just thinking that one looks a bit big, so I'm just going to get rid of that bit. That's better. What I'm going to do is just, remember I've knotted the fabric, I'm just going to poke it through. And I'm just going to do a couple of back stitches across like so. So just like that. And when you pull them, obviously, like the little petals, the little flowers, if you don't have a knot, pull it, you should get a little bit of a gathering. So just a bit of a gathering like that. And then I'm just going to tuck it where I want it behind one of the flowers and just sew it into place. Now the idea is that they're just sort of just there. You could embroider veins on it and so forth, but I don't think it's totally necessary. Right, now I'm just going to poke it up through here because I'm going to put another one here. So again, I've just pulled it through and I'm just going to gather this end with a running stitch. Then it just pokes under there as well. And I still have a couple more, so I'm thinking one next to that one might be nice. It's probably a lot of effort to go for one flip, but look, if you enjoy doing it, then it's not a hardship, is it? Okay, so that's that one. So we've got 2 there. Alright, now the last one I'm thinking, this one's a really wonky one. This one's going to go maybe here, in this space here. So I'm bringing the thread. Now I don't want to drag it right across, so I'm just going to take it across the back of some of these other stitches. So bringing the thread up. Now this one I'm just going to go across the bottom. Position where you want it. trying to get underneath some of those petals, obviously, so it hides the end. Alrighty, so there we go. That's one decorated flip. Now the back, quite a bit of stitching, so I am actually thinking I might put something on the back. My thinking was I do have this lace, which is curtain lace, and I'm thinking I might actually pop that on the back because it will hide it like so. So we'll just pin it so I can trim it. You can trim it a little bit more when it's sewn. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a running stitch around in the pink. Since I have a nice big piece here, which now is just knotted up because I pulled it, which is clever. Alright, I'll untangle that and be back. Okay, now be mindful that when you are sewing that this is actually the front, so even though you may be trying to catch the back, just watch out that you remember this is the front. I'm thinking I'll start at the top between the two layers and just tuck that in behind, and I'm just simply going to do a running stitch all the way around. Alright, still getting around. Just a slight, when you are doing, if you're going to cut the lace, just make sure you cut it bigger, because it was easy here, but here where it was just, it's been hard to actually catch it. And unfortunately my camera ran out of battery actually ran out of space just at the last sort of few minutes. So basically this was what it turned out to be, and that was the sewing around, and it's worked out quite well. And I'll pop that in one of the journals, or the journal that I'm making. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.